That is a sweep against the Houston Astros. And just like that, the Tigers have won 6 of their last 7 and 10 of their last 13. We'll talk about that and more all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Thursday, August 21st, 2025. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for 2 to any golf tournament in the USA. Visit 5hewin.com for full rules and entry. No purchase necessary. Excludes the Masters tournament. Ends October 31st, 2025. And things are getting awful scary for the opponents of the Detroit Tigers. Halloween, bang. That was whatever. 7-2 win for your Detroit Tigers, and they complete a sweep against Houston. 7-2 final. The Tigers improved to 76-53 on the season as the Houston Astros fall to 69-58 now on the year. And your Detroit Tigers are in sole possession of best record and the number 1 seed in the American League. First thought is that was an awesome game and an awesome series. Going into this month, okay, I was critical of the trade deadline. They weren't playing very well on top of what I thought was an underwhelming trade deadline. Talked a lot about that, but looked ahead in the month of August and said there is a real chance to get back on track here. This is not, I mean, honestly, it was like ranked as one of the easier schedules going forward. You have a chance to right the ship, get back on track. And they did that before this series against the Astros. Now the Astros are struggling, I think would be almost putting it lightly on the offensive side of the ball, especially. But they are still going into this series a first place team, and the Mariners, I think, are on the verge of being swept too. So, like, there's still a first place team in the American League West. There's a really good chance you're going to be, in a postseason bracket that has the Astros in it, and you absolutely crushed them. This was the whole reason I brought that up, ADHD, was because, like, the Astros series was the one that we kind of focused on, and we're like, okay, maybe you can call, like these other series weak, or like you play the Twins twice, and like how good are the Royals going to be, et cetera, et cetera. But like you have a tough series at home against the Astros, and you're going to get Hunter Brown in that series, and the Tigers sweep them. Honestly, like they completely dismantled the Astros. This was a pummeling. Fantastic. If this was the series to watch in August, then that's a great sign for your Detroit Tigers. 2 earned runs allowed from the pitching staff all series. 2 shutouts, 2 earned runs total, and those were in this game. 18 runs scored offensively, and not a single loss. And obviously, one of those was a shutout through 9 innings against one of the best pitchers in the sport. And then the other 2 were 17 runs. And like Framber Valdez has been consistently one of the better pitchers in the American League for years now, had an ERA of about 3 going into this outing. Now it sits at about 3.3. You smacked him around. You smacked the Astros around. Offense showed up, really good pitching all series. And again, a first place lineup, despite the fact that it's struggling mightily lately. And the bullpen was nails. So that it just awesome. Just awesome, man. Everything about this series was just absolutely amazing. It was very reminiscent of how the Tigers won so many of their games in the first half of the season to me. You had fantastic at-bats early. You get a lead in the first inning or two, and then great pitching already has a lead. The starting pitching gives you some innings. The bullpen doesn't allow the opponent to, crawl back into the game or make it a little bit closer than it seemed early. Just an absolute masterclass of a game, and again, honestly, an entire series against a good ball club. So, what went right? We're going to start with the offense because, I don't know, chronologically, like you score 6 runs in the first inning against as good of a pitcher as Framber Valdez. That's a huge deal. And I already alluded to that, but like that is something that we have not seen as much in this Tigers lineup over the last month and a half, going on almost 2 months. And it was something that was so prevalent for the first 2 or 3 months of the season. We talked all the time about that and about how not only the putting pressure on opponents thing that I always love to talk about, but they just had such competitive at-bats early on, and it really felt like they were always just trying to get the starting pitcher out of the game as soon as possible, and they succeeded a lot in the first 12 weeks of the season. This, I mean, obviously, you look at the box score, felt a lot like that. That is again a 3 ERA, really professional pitcher that's been good for a while. And the Tigers offense not only hit him around, but also drew 4 walks off of him in 5 innings. Framber Valdez, an elite ground ball, keep the ball low and in the yard type of pitcher, not afraid to pound the strike zone whatsoever, was just a little bit off. And the Tigers took advantage of that and didn't expand the zone or swing with him. So, I mean, fantastic. And then on the bullpen side, the Tigers don't play on Thursday. Today, as you listen to this, the Astros do. So they kind of have to manage their bullpen a little bit differently. And the game's getting on a hand, so you don't get like the A-team bullpen again for the second day in a row. And so, and on top of that, they kind of have to leave Framber out there, at least for, the 5 innings he pitched, just to get them to a point where they weren't going to completely deplete their bullpen on a game they probably weren't going to win before going into a series against Baltimore. So, yeah, like the Tigers offense on the game had 4 walks and 5 strikeouts. And I think one of those strikeouts came in the 8th inning. I think going into their last round of at-bats, it was 4-4. That's not even to mention 7 hits and 7 runs. They had more hits than strikeouts. They almost had as many walks as strikeouts. Just a fantastic game plan, a fantastic approach. And yeah, like 6 come in the first inning, but I don't think they completely like rolled over either. I know they only scored 1 run the rest of the game technically, but there's still 1 other inning you're scoring runs and you're not getting at-bats in the 9th. And also like, you still had opportunities. It's not like you weren't getting runners on base against Framber, at least. Like they still were applying pressure, but also like that's such a good pitcher. I don't care. I don't care. You don't need to even out your runs to make them all pretty against a guy like that. If you can just get 7 runs, you just take your 7 runs and you run. But okay. Let's talk about some of the individuals offensively that stood out. Then we'll obviously talk about Charlie Morton and the pitching staff as well. We'll do that right after this. All right, everybody, welcome back. Nope. First, though, we got to talk to y'all about our friends over at Monarch Money. Most people can't name all of their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's the all-in-one personal finance tool that helps bring your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. So you can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data and visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever even touching a spreadsheet. So go check out Monarch Money today and don't let the financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off of your first year. That's 50% off of your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONMLB. All right, everybody, now welcome back. Got my my intros mixed up there. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, as always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day, and we will, of course, be back tomorrow previewing the weekend, talking off day, big picture, where the Tigers stand, kind of looking ahead again the rest of the way as well. Today, though, we talk about this fantastic 7-2 victory for the Detroit Tigers. Let's talk about some of the individuals offensively that stood out. I mean, really everyone. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that, again, for the second game in a row, that, or really all series, there was really anybody that stood out. I mean, I guess we'll talk Jake Rogers a little bit. He was one pretty uncompetitive at bats, but even he had a couple of hard hit balls. Like Jahmai Jones gets on base a few times. Okay, walk, hit. Andy Ibanez, RBI off a lefty. You know, we haven't really talked about it as much, but his OPS against left-handed pitchers since being recalled, right? Because he struggled to start off the year, got sent down, then got recalled in July. Since then, it's around 800. Like he is back to doing what the Tigers have wanted him to do. And that's great. Like he is, I don't know if I need to see him batting third consistently, but like he is a valuable asset to this team and proved that time and time again last season. And now is doing that again this year. Again, an OPS. It was 800 exactly going into this game. He had 4 at-bats, not all of them against lefties, and then did get a hit in one. And I'm not that good at math. So we'll wait till it updates on Thursday. You can check it out yourself. But again, it's not the full season. The full season, it's still over league average. He's got like a 720 or a 725 OPS on the year against lefties. But since being recalled, it's right around 800, which is really nice to have back in the lineup. Riley Greene, 2 walks and no strikeouts. Hallelujah. You know, I think in all seriousness, that is a major adjustment that he has made. And we've talked about this all year. It's not as much to me the amount of swing and miss or strikeouts. It's the fact that he wasn't pairing any of it with consistently getting on base or drawing walks. His walk numbers last year were great. This year, for most of the year, they've been terrible. And his swing percentage, just literally what it is, just the amount of times he's swinging, it is so much higher on the year than it has been at any point in his major league career. And so I think it's nice just to see, no matter what your opinion of him is, et cetera, it's just nice to see, okay, this dude might have 30 home runs and 100 RBIs before the month of September even gets here. So, like, he's good. But B, I think it's also important that over the last week, he's almost averaging a walk a game. Like, those walk numbers have really taken big steps forward over the last 6 or 7 games. And so I think that that's a really important thing to keep an eye out for as well. Spencer Torkelson with a knock and an RBI. Javy Baez had a solid game at the plate, 2 RBI in this ball game. Dillon Dingler was absolutely freaking fantastic. 2 for 3, crushing the ball all game. Even the fly out he had was roped. Okay. He has been fantastic at the plate and was DHing the old double catcher lineup, if you will. You know, it's I don't know if fun is the right word, but like it's kind of cool to see this lineup finally get used. Obviously that we don't say that if they get, shut out and look terrible, but it's funny to me that going into the year and last year, even when it was Carson Kelly and Jake Rogers, there's always a conversation in spring training about, okay, against a lefty, does it make sense to go catcher and put one of them at DH because, the platoon situation, whatever. And then like this year, Jake Rogers has just hit so poorly That's never nobody's, you're trying to get Dillon Dingler in the lineup card as often as possible. Obviously, he's been great, but you don't need both of them in the lineup necessarily, as we might have hypothesized at some point, in February and March, way too early conversations. So it's cool to finally just see this and see Dingler hit well as a DH. That's just maybe the catcher bias within me, but I found it fun, and he certainly made the most of that at the plate. Charlie Morton, is that it for offense? I think it is. Charlie Morton, 6 innings, 3 hits, 2 runs, 3 walks, 8 strikeouts with 1 home run against. His ERA down to 5.09 on the season after this quality start. His curveball is still just disgusting, man. It's just such an incredible pitch still. The stuff in general is still so sharp for his age, and I feel like I'm a broken record, and I just say that every time he pitches, but it really does impress me. Every single time he takes the bump, over 40, and still everything is so sharp and has such great life to it. It really is impressive. I think the curveball is great. It gets almost all of his swing and miss. It's a fantastic pitch still, the old Uncle Charlie, if you will. But his 2-seamer is so effective for called strikes. And I think that dynamic and how he goes back and forth between the two on the mound is so fascinating and kind of unique in today's day and age of baseball, where you see someone that is constantly trying to get called strikes with a fastball, and then obviously, get you to chase with the curveball isn't an anomaly or unique in any sense. But I think that those two paired together are so good, and he doesn't have a ton else in the arsenal that's going to necessarily blow you away, but those 2 pitches do the job pretty consistently. And, then he obviously mixes in a fastball that has less run on it and more of a straighter pitch. And then he's got, different variations of the breaking ball he can go to. But I'm so impressed by the curveball and the 2-seam. And hopefully he just keeps it rolling. Right now, I would rather have Charlie Morton on the mound than Chris Paddock, I think. Not that really matters at all. And maybe I'm just saying that just being a jerk, and that doesn't they're not competing with each other. They're both in the rotation. That's not really a competition or a thought that even matters. But if you were to give me, say, a 5-game series that took place in the month of October against a really good team, just hypothetically, I would probably lean Morton over Paddock. If you're choosing between those two, not the whole rotation. But Morton can still get strikeouts. He can still get whiffs at a really solid rate. The issue that he runs into is when he does get hit, when he doesn't miss bats, he gets hit really hard. And he has all season. He's been getting, the contact numbers against him and the exit velocities, etc., whatever number you want to look at, hard hit rate, barrel rate, whatever. He gets hit hard. And we saw the home run in this game. We saw that weird game was that the Phillies, where he had 10 strikeouts, but 6 runs. That's just kind of what he's offering at this point in his career. So he's been solid in Detroit so far, but he's also still given up a handful of home runs. We'll see how he continues to do. But another solid outing with solid strikeout and swing and miss stuff. And so tip of the cap to Uncle Charlie there, who puts together another solid start for your Detroit Tigers. Let's talk about the bullpen, and we'll talk what went wrong and stuff. We will do that right after this. First, though, got to talk to y'all about our friends over at 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. This grape, ginger, and lime flavored shot brings the iconic taste of a golf course to a non-alcoholic boost. Perfect for sinking birdies or making great memories with friends. It's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Whether you're out on the course or just need a little extra push to power through your day, 5-Hour Energy Transfusion delivers the clubhouse flavor you love without ever leaving the green. The golf is a beautiful game. Okay, it's absolutely wonderful. It is frustrating and enlightening At the same time, it's all about good times with good people and good flavors. And that grape, ginger, lime flavor, a 5-hour energy transfusion, gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without leaving the course or chasing down the bev cart. So you can now amp up the fun even more. Just buy, snap, and enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for 2 to any golf tournament in the USA. Tee that trip up. Visit 5hewin.com for full rules and entry. No purchase necessary. Excludes the Masters tournament. Ends October 31st, 2025. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, as always. What else went right? Look at this. We're in segment 3. We're still talking about what went right. That doesn't happen too often, okay? What a great day of baseball. Vibes are high. The bullpen was great as well. You had Brennan Hanafy go 1 1/3, 1 hit, no runs, no walks, 1 strikeouts. His first appearance since being recalled from the minor leagues. His ERA now down to 3.02. That bowling ball sinker against righties returns, and this Astros team is extremely right-handed heavy, especially in their usual starting lineup, can be extremely, like exclusively right-handed heavy. So Hanafy, you knew, was going to get an opportunity and made the most of it. Tyler Holton, a lefty, does get some work as well later in the game as a part of, managerial chess. He goes 2/3 of an inning with 1 hit, no runs, no walks, no strikeouts. ERA down 3.65. I think I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but it's nice with the off day and a big lead and a close game in game 2. So you used Vest and Finnegan. Like, you can go to Holton in a 5-run game late and not really feel bad about it. He's definitely not going to pitch on Thursday, and he hasn't really pitched too much this week before Wednesday either. So not going to pitch a ton on the week as a whole when you look back on it. So it's cool to get him an opportunity in a lower leverage situation just to guarantee a sweep there. Feels great. Good bullpen management by AJ as almost always. What went wrong? Not a whole lot. I mentioned Jake Rogers' offense earlier. I guess that counts. Like he really does just kind of feel like an automatic out at this point. I thought he caught a great game for whatever it's worth. I thought the framing was really, really solid. His receiving was great. I have zero complaints about how he looked defensively and the game that he called. And like ultimately, it's backup catcher. You know how many teams in baseball have like 2 dynamic, above average offensive catchers that are also good defensively? Like none. Okay, not very many. So I think that given the amount of playing time he's had, it's fair to expect more. I'm not saying this is like passable or that his 167 average and 570 OPS is like good, but it's really not the end of the world either. It's not the reason the Tigers will, win or lose in the postseason or whatever. Rough at bats. That's all I'm saying. I guess the only other thing I could really call out is the defense. I feel like every day it's just hot and cold with this team's defense. It's either fantastic or awful. In this game, it was not very good. 2 errors, yet a ball just get absolutely airmailed to right field from third base in this ball game. It didn't cost the Tigers much of anything. It didn't matter, but that's the kind of stuff that just drives me nuts, because then there's 2 men on in a 5-run game. If you leave a pitch over the plate and there's an extra base hit or even, heaven forbid, a home run, then just like that, this is a 2-run ball game with still almost half the game to play. So that kind of stuff still drives me up a wall, but alas, it didn't matter on this ball game. Let's talk stuff. Tigers organization stuff. Alex Cobb pitched again. He came out of the bullpen, still got multiple innings, still threw, I want to say like 40 or 50 pitches. Came out of the bullpen in Toledo. I don't think that's an accident. I don't think they're like, let's just do this because, or let's do this because we have other people we want to get in the rotation. think that's probably more in line with a realization, might be too dramatic of a word, but I think it's probably something to do with them looking at just his delivery and how he looks every time he plants and throws the ball. That they're probably like, you know what? I think we probably are not gonna. I just said probably like 6 times. I think that they're just looking around, going, we're not gonna ask him to throw 80 plus pitches anymore. Let's just try to see if we can get a multi-inning reliever down the stretch out of him at this point. So we'll see if that even happens. But something I thought was noteworthy: old friend Mark Canha DFA'd by the Royals right before the Tigers play the Royals. So we will not be facing Mark Canha, the self-proclaimed food critic. I still respect the heck out of Mark Canha, man. I loved him. Just he was done by the time he got here. Don't get me wrong. The power was completely zapped, but he had like a 6-week stretch to start off the season where he was maybe the best hitter on the team and drew a ton of walks. I adore him. Unfortunate news also on the injury front within the organization. Max Clark leaves a ball game on Tuesday with an apparent hand or wrist injury. At the time of this recording, which is right after the game on Wednesday, I haven't heard an update on that. So maybe by the time you listen to this on Thursday, you will have an update. But I don't know. I don't want to speculate. I'm super, super, super not a doctor. But I think that you see him swing and then immediately just leave the game and complain about, something in the hand area. That's like never fun. It's not so serious that, he's going to miss like next season too. But I think there probably is a decent chance that he's just shut down for the year. There's only a month left in the regular season for the minor leagues anyway. I think that's probably something we should accept or think about accepting. That's not really the point of accepting, but I think you get what I'm trying to say. Put in the back of our minds, and hopefully it's nothing. And we look and he, had a cramp or something. But I think that that's enough cause for concern to maybe keep an eye out for that. Okay, so now you have an off day today. Home against the Royals this weekend. We'll do a full preview of that on tomorrow's show. But Kansas City is now in second place. They actually passed Cleveland. Cleveland's hot streak to make fans sweat a little bit in the American League Central race has completely evaporated and dissipated, and they're almost back to 500. They're back, I think, down to exactly 10 games back at the time of this recording. Maybe this is before the result is done on Wednesday. I haven't checked the scores from around the league. But if the season ended today, both Cleveland and Kansas City are multiple games out of a wild card spot. Neither of these are playoff teams. So, a day off, and it's home, day off, home. You have a day off at home and you aren't traveling. Enjoy it, rest up, and go beat the Kansas City Royals. Like I said, we'll preview that series in full tomorrow. Okay? Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. And we, of course, will be back tomorrow to preview said series and talk about just where the Tigers stand currently among the American League and baseball. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. Check out Locked On MLB Game. Can I speak today? Locked On MLB Game Night, not Locked On MLB Game. That sounds like a great show because it's a Locked On show. Game Night, however, is the show you should check out over at Locked On MLB's YouTube page. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch you all tomorrow, baby. Go Tigers.